PhDizzle. I'm your host, Alice Cheng, and today I am interviewing Dr. Melissa Agnello, who got her bachelor's in biological sciences from the George Washington University and her PhD in Clinical and Experimental Therapeutics from the University of Southern California. Now Melissa actually owns her own company, and it's called UBiome. Let's start maybe from your PhD. So tell me a little bit about what does clinical and experimental therapeutics encompass?
So the program Clinical and Experimental Therapeutics was in the School of Pharmacy. Clinical and Experimental Therapeutics was a relatively new program when I started. They were really focused on training students to be translational scientists. And so the way that the program worked, it was a very nice, well-rounded education. So my PhD project specifically was in antimicrobial resistance. I worked with a bacterial pathogen that causes pneumonia, and I studied how it becomes resistant to antibiotics and at the molecular level, and what that resistance means at the clinical level. How does that then affect patient outcomes?
So you've kind of built your own path, and I think there are a couple steps to where you got to today, but maybe tell me about like what immediately happened after grad school and how you decided to make that first transition.
At that time, 2013, the microbiome field was really new, but it was really exciting. So it was just this whole explosion of research on how important the human microbiome is to overall health. And it seemed like such a perfect fit for me as a scientist because it combined microbiology. I love learning about bacteria. I think bacteria are the coolest, but also, human health and human physiology, which I'm really interested in. And so the decision to do a postdoc was really because I wasn't ready to leave the lab, leave academia. I loved doing my experiments. I loved that investigation. I wanted to get a different experience. I wanted to learn a different field. This was in the UCLA School of Dentistry, actually. And I started working on the oral microbiome and all the microbes that live in the mouth and cause oral diseases.
So finally, then I think you decided to leave at least like the university level research and transition into more on the business side. So maybe tell me about how that happened.
It was nice because my postdoc advisor was really entrepreneurially minded. It's not that every advisor is like that, right? So luckily, when I joined my postdoc lab, I knew I didn't want to stay in academia. I knew I wanted to move into industry, and I was just trying to, go through more personal growth and get more experience before doing that. But my advisor was very supportive of that. So he gave me all different projects that could kind of hone those different skills. We worked a lot with industry partners. He also gave me experience running clinical studies. And so I was able to kind of get this nice, well-rounded postdoc. I got some leadership experience, more lecturing experience. And I knew, after the first year of my postdoc that my goal would be to work at one of the really cool microbiome startups that were popping up in San Francisco. And after 2 years at my postdoc, my advisor told us he was shutting down the lab and retiring from UCLA. So we had about 6 months notice. And so it was actually a good thing. It forced me to kind of then make the next step. I applied to a couple different companies in the Bay Area that were working on microbiome science, and I ended up at this company called UBiome, and the position was really a nice transition from academia to industry. My job was to work with academic researchers all over the country, all over the world actually, that were using UBiome's technology in their research and help them use the technology, help them design their studies. The microbiome field was then and is now still really new, and researchers want to start studying it and adding it to their existing clinical studies, but they aren't really familiar about the best practices or how to go about the analyses, and so I would assist them with that. And that position turned into a lot of business development, even product development, clinical research. It was a startup, so I was pulled into a lot of different things, but I ended up learning so much and getting a lot of different experiences.
I know you're originally from the East Coast, so you made the trek to LA, you made the move up to SF, but now you're back in LA. So tell me about that, and you're starting something of your own, or you have started something of your own. which is really exciting and also really different. So just tell me a little bit about like the move, like, you know, what caused you to want to start something, what caused the move back, and what you're doing today.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure like a lot of people, I'm married and my husband, and we have this kind of two-person problem. My husband then became a professor at Caltech, and so we moved to Pasadena, where we are now. And after about 6 months of working remotely with UBiome in San Francisco, the company actually went through a lot of rough times and shut down, declared bankruptcy, shut down back in October. Once the shutdown happened, I was talking to my former colleague who I had been working very closely with the entire time at UBiome. And he has a lot of experience, past experience starting up companies. And we decided, you know what, this might be a really good time to just start something of our own. Basically a consulting and research services company that is focusing specifically on the microbiome and helping researchers as well, in industry, as well as academics, clinical researchers work on their microbiome projects. And this could take many different forms. And we've helped companies develop formulations for their supplements. We've helped connect companies to clinical researchers that want to help test their products. We've helped write papers, and we're trying to now, expand our service offering to be able to help run clinical studies and everything else.
Selfishly, because I also work in LA and we're very big on building the LA ecosystem, can you talk a little bit about what that looks like, just the LA bio landscape generally?
Yeah, great question, because I wasn't quite sure myself until I moved down here and I started going to all these networking events. There are so many resources and it's really amazing. When I was working in San Francisco, everybody likes to just focus on San Francisco and this is the center, and they're kind of, and it's very intimidating, and it's not very welcoming. It's like a little scary to me, and maybe because LA is my home and I've lived here, over 10 years now. But when I came back to LA and started going to events and telling people about my ideas for my company and where it could go, everyone's so supportive, and there's so much enthusiasm and excitement to help bring companies here and help people start their companies. There's so many resources, from funding all the way to lab space, to incubation, to accelerators, or even just advice everywhere. And it seems like, before COVID crisis and things had to be canceled, there were networking events, twice a week that you could find all over the city. And the nice thing is that the city, county is just so big that there's all these different kind of hot spots. So you have Santa Monica and Venice, and then on the east side you have, Pasadena and Caltech, and then there's downtown. And so you can really just like see all, have so many resources in all these different places and meet so many different people. So I think it's great. I never thought I would be, owning my own business and trying to build it. After a postdoc, I just wanted a paycheck, which I think is how a lot of people feel. But it's definitely worth it, and we'll see where it goes. But I think it's worth it, and I'm learning, trying not to question myself. And I think a lot of people, that's a lot of people have struggled with that. So that's what I'm trying to teach myself.
All right, so you are a pretty busy bee between running your own business and networking. So what kind of hobbies do you have that you like to do in your spare time?
Yeah, great question. So I'm a really big runner, so I've tried to keep that up, and I love running races. And right now it's been a little hard because a lot of the races have been canceled, but I'm trying to do it on my own. I've run 4 half marathons, and I was supposed to run another one this spring, but hopefully I can make that up in the fall. And so that's something I really enjoy. I also got into birding about 1.5 years ago. So
what's birding? Like birds in the sky, or like the scooter birds?
No, actually never used those.
Okay, they're also fun.
I bird watching with my binoculars.
Do you have a favorite bird, or like the coolest bird that you've seen so far?
Yeah, so my favorite is called the Stellar's jay. It's a blue jay that lives at higher altitudes, so I don't usually see them. I wouldn't see them in LA, but I definitely see them in Northern California and in the mountains.
PhDizzle!
Having fun with smart people who do cool things.